Hi, friends. Welcome. I hope you're doing well. Say hi in the chat. In fact, let me just do a little check-in question. Check-in question. What's your favorite road trip snack? I've been getting a little bit snacky lately. And by that, I mean, I was on this like kind of intense, not intense, but like, yeah, it was pretty intense. Like a eating plan. And hi, Valentina and Vita, you get shout outs because you were here first. And then I've like kind of eased off of it, and now I'm eating all kinds of crazy snacks. Oh, there's so many awesome hellos in the chat. Okay, we got M&Ms, Goldfish, Cheetos, Pringles. I need to know I need specifics, y'all. If we're gonna say Pringles, Grayson, I need to know what kind of Pringles. And same with Teddy Grahams, Laura. I love that. It's a throwback to the 90s for me. What are we talking about? For me, it's my guilty pleasures are combos, pepperoni pizza, even though I'm sometimes a vegetarian. And I gotta go like, I think peanut M&Ms if I'm in the sweet mood, and probably Diet Coke. Smart food popcorn. I like that, Tanya. That's like somewhat healthy. Well, hi, welcome. I'm Ethan. If you've never met before, I'm going to tell you some more stuff about me in a few minutes, but this is my side house. It looks like, I don't know what it looks. I think I need a plant in the background. Let me know if y'all think I need a plant and what else you think I should put in this background, because it looks pretty, I don't know, austere. I've got these like lights set up that are kind of intense. I'm just noticing right here. And I've been filming videos. So let me just show you like what's happening in this room that I'm in right now. But there are like these cameras set up because I'm shooting videos for a thing that I will release at some point soon. But anyway, that's my context. How are y'all? I hope you're doing great. Thanks for being here. Let me share my screen. This is what we're talking about today. We're talking about, what if it's like a fail? I don't like the way it didn't. There we go. That's a little bit better. It's going to like chop off the bottom of my screen here. I apologize for that. Anyway, we're talking about brainstorming a personal statement. And we're going to talk about how to structure a personal statement too. Let me do this. There we go. I think this is better. Okay. Yeah, there's going to be lots of like practical stuff. Here's me. Oh my gosh, it's going to chop off the bottoms of all of these. I really am sorry. I will get this sorted, y'all, for next time. I usually use Prezi, and it's PowerPoint today. Anyway, I went to Northwestern, studied performance studies and theater and English. Then I got an MFA. I've written a couple books. One of the books is like maybe the bestseller in its category, and I'm talking about college essays. I do a lot of this, writing and speaking and teaching. And my website last year, College Essay Guy, I should say our website, because it's not just me, it's like some other really rad folks. We got like 3 million unique visitors last year, which kind of blows my mind. I don't really know how to think about 3 million people applying to college all at once. And I was a missionary kid. I don't know if that means anything to y'all, but I grew up in Spain, Ecuador, and Colombia. Y si quieres saber, sí, hablo español cuando me conviene. And I'm a decent free throw shooter. All right. I won't be reading to you every single slide. Some things that I'm known for or that you should know about. We've got this thing called the Matchlighter Scholarship, which is 10 hours of free essay and application help for low-income students. If that is you, if you're like, hey, I'm a low-income student, and if you're not sure, there's a little thing that you can fill out. Go to collegeessayguy.com/matchlighters. Ashley, who's moderating, if you wouldn't mind putting the Matchlighters application into the chat, that would be super awesome. And I want you all to apply like right now, because you've got limited spots available. But if you are somebody who you think, ooh, I could stand to get some free essay or application help, we want you. We want you to apply like right now. Like you could totally multitask during this session and fill out. In fact, I would love it if Erica, who is the director of Matchlighters, was like, we got 50 applications last night. What happened? How did we get 50 applications? Again, you can I'll get a painting from my wall. Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Ashley just put in the thing. And I don't think Celtics in 4, Kyle, just by the way. But if that is you, I'd love for y'all to apply. I'm also known for free stuff. We give away a ton of resources. College Application Hub is one that's got a lot of resources. I've got a podcast. I'd create a bunch of resources for counselors. And then you can reach out on social media. We're on the Insta and the YouTubes. Facebook, I know, sorry, y'all, none of y'all are on Facebook. We got a great Discord community if you're interested in that. Ashley's going to throw in links to all these, and you can like pick your the way you want to receive information. Also, we've got this cool one-for-one service model, which I don't often talk about, but counselors lately have been like, you should talk about that. So like for every student that College Essay Guy supports on essays and applications, we support a student from a low-income family at no cost. And so Ashley, if you wouldn't mind just throwing in that link as well so folks know about that. We're really proud of that. And so if you are a student who is like, yeah, I could afford to pay for essay help, just know that that's supporting a student who can't afford help. Here's what we're doing today. We're going to talk about the purpose of the personal statement. I'll keep that short. I'm going to share with you 3 fun ways to find your personal statement topic. So that's the part where you're going to need like a pen, and if you have it nearby, some paper, because we're going to do a little bit of writing. And then I want to talk to you about the importance of core values. You're probably going to hear me say core values a bunch on this session. I apologize in advance. I'm going to share with you 2 different example essays that I think are super awesome. We'll talk about some topics to potentially avoid. And I didn't put a slide in for that. So if I forget that, let's see, who is this? Victor, I'm going to tell you to remind me to do that. I just randomly picked somebody from the chat. And then I'll talk to you briefly about my Pay What You Can summer courses that are coming up in like 2 weeks as soon as y'all get out for the summer. And then we'll do Q&A on anything you want. All right. So what is the purpose of the personal statement? Like, why are you writing this thing for college? The short answer is you're trying to demonstrate the skills, qualities, values, and interests that you'll bring with you to a college campus. Okay. So if you want to like screenshot that or tattoo it on your, I don't know, on a Post-it, maybe just put it on a Post-it note, don't get super intense. It's where you're trying to demonstrate the skills, qualities, values, and interests that you're going to bring with you to a college campus. But the question is, of course, well, how do you do that? Like, which topic should you choose? We'll get to that in just a second. I forgot I added a slide in here. Next, let's talk about what are the qualities of an outstanding personal statement? Like, what does that look like? So first of all, the big one is values. Values. I said I'd say it a bunch. And I think that's information. And I'm going to say a little bit more, and I'm going to do a little exercise around how do you find your core values. And that's just like the stuff that you like super care about. The next one is insight. Can you answer the question, so what, multiple times in your essay? And we'll look at an example in just a few minutes. The third is vulnerability. Like, is your personal statement like actually personal? And then finally, craft. Like, did you write it in a way that you clearly revise it? It's clear, logical, and it's well written. I know that's like super complicated. Like, what does well written mean? And again, we'll look at some examples so you'll see what I mean. Okay, first exercise. Grab a piece of paper or open up a Google Doc or I don't know. You can do this on your phone, but try not to like hop on TikTok while you're doing this. I know you guys are not going to do that. Okay. So here, we're going to do a 1-minute exercise. I'm going to time myself and show you how this works. And I want y'all to, for real, do this. If you don't do this, then you'll be bored for the next minute. Okay. So the first exercise is called I love, and it basically goes like this. I love, and I'm just going to make a list of things that I love. I love the sort of pale color gray of this water bottle. I love pens that write really well. I had a really good conversation. I love really deep conversations that go late into the night. I had one of those last night with 2 friends. I love that technology allows me to be like with you right now. I think that's pretty amazing. I love that you're here showing up for yourself for this process. I love this process. I love geeking out on good writing. I love a good poem. I love a good haiku. I love barbecue chips. I love barbecue sauce. I love, I'm just on a barbecue kick. I love rodeo cheeseburgers from Burger King. I love Thai food. I love green papaya salad. I love my daughter's love of soccer. She's getting into soccer right now. I love when I don't know what I'm going to say next. Okay, time's up. All right, your turn. Your turn. I want you to make a list for 1 minute of things that you love. And don't think about this too much. Just make a random list. And I'm going to explain what this has to do with an essay, a personal statement in just a minute. 3, 2, 1, go. Make a list of things that you love. Make a big list on your own. You can share in the chat later if you want, but for now, make it on your own. Get specific. List as many things as you can think of. All right, time's up. Okay, next exercise. This is also a 1-minute exercise. I want you to make a list of things that you know a lot about. So things that you could geek out on. So like I know a lot about theater. I know a lot about how the body makes sound. I know a lot about silly accents. I know a lot about voiceover. I know a lot about college essays. I know a lot about college basketball. I know a lot about proper shooting form, etc. Okay, so what are some things that you could geek out on? Things you know a lot about for 1 minute. 3, 2, 1, go. I'm going to let y'all share in just a minute. This is great, but wait, don't share just yet. I want you to just make the list of things you know a lot about. And adult humans in the room, I love that you're doing this too. Please do it. It's fun. I mean, counselors, yes, please do this. All right, time's up. I'm gonna do the other exercises with you, and then I'm gonna show you how this turns into a personal statement. Exercise 2, identities. So what are some different ways that you identify? I want you to make a list of at least 5. So maybe you identify as a feminist, or a dancer, or a Harry Potter reader, or an anime lover, or whatever. List for a minute as many identities as you can think of. And a cool way to think about this is think about communities that you're a part of. Like people that you like to do stuff with, people who have similar things that, people you have in common with. It could be something like based on your place where you live, things you do, things you like to do, circumstance, like where you were born, who you were born as. Uh, 30 more seconds. See if you can think of some more different identities, ways that you identify. Okay. Time's up on that one. Okay. Third one, last one. Finish this sentence. If you really knew me, ... And then I want you to see if you can connect it to a value. So what do I mean by this? So if you really knew me, I'm going to share my face for a second. If you really knew me, Ethan, you would know that, and I'm trying to go like a little bit deeper, like something below the surface. Because like a surface level thing of like, if you really knew me, you would know that I like basketball. But that doesn't really tell you about if you really knew me. So like if you really knew me, you would know that playing basketball when I grew up was a way of connecting like cross-culturally when I would move around to different countries. So I was often the new kid. But when I would play basketball, I was able to connect with people and like make friends. Now, what I'm doing is I'm pausing and I'm asking myself, so what? So what? And that was really important because it was really hard to be the new kid. It really sucked. I was like, I went to like 13 schools. So like I was looking for ways to like get in with people pretty quickly. So what? So the value of that is that I actually developed other ways of getting to know people quickly. And that was like hard. But one of the ways that I got to know people quickly is like learning to ask great questions. So what? And I think that that somehow relates to what I do now, which is like I ask students big questions to help them get to know themselves better. So in a roundabout way, I could say that like growing up and moving around a lot and being the new kid helped me develop skills and resources that help me like to connect with others. There's a value connecting with others to like understand their cultures better and to ultimately feel safe. Like there's another value of like safety. I think asking deep questions helps me to feel safe. Okay, that started off with basketball and it ended up being about finding safety and cross-cultural connection. Okay, I don't expect yours to sound like mine, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about something that you maybe wouldn't like, not everybody knows about you necessarily. And I want you to say the thing to yourself or write it down and then so what yourself. So meaning just like ask yourself, so what? And see if you can start to connect to some of these values that you see on the screen. Because this is what's going to help you lead to insight. So let's just try this for, I don't know, about a minute. And let's see where this takes us. Again, the first part of the question is, if you really knew me, ... So I want you to just think of a phrase or something that would reveal something deeper about who you are, and then see if you can so what yourself until you know, so you could start with something simple. I love being creative. Okay, so what? For me, it helps me trust myself more, or it helps me appreciate the diversity of many different kinds of artists. So what? And see what values you can connect it to. Okay. What you're probably finding is that I'm going fast through these exercises, and it's like, these are like interesting ideas, but they're like, we're not taking, and stand by because there is more time that you can take with each of these exercises. But for now, just kind of for fun, because I want to see what you all are generating, is I'd love for you to post in the chat either your I love list, your I know list, your list of identities, or if you're open to it, your if you really knew me sentence. So for example, Vanchika wrote, if you really knew me, Ethan, you would know that I'm a great cook and that I'm very adaptable as I've traveled a lot in my life. This matters as I've lived in many places in my life. So notice that Vanchika is connecting that, the love of cooking, being great at cooking, to adaptability and to travel, which is kind of cool. That starts to lead to like some stories, I'm sure. Okay. So again, grab either your I love, your I know, or your if you really knew me, and just paste it into the chat. I'm going to grab another one. Prajanya, for example, named these identities: dancer, environmental activist, artist, Indian, vegan. Beautiful. I want to learn all about those sides of you, Prajanya. Vanchika identifies as a mother, wife, daughter, teacher, fitness enthusiast, photographer. Cool. Indian female, caring person. Awesome. Let's see. Here we go. I know a lot about, Dylan says, World War II, post-Soviet Europe, basketball, football teams and rosters. Let me like stop sharing my screen so you can see my face for a second. How to cook easy meals for families. How to make a roux sauce. Awesome. By the way, that's a beautiful metaphor, roux. It's like the thing that, you know, when you mix it in, it disappears, which is like a cool metaphor for leadership, by the way. Quick side note, Dylan. If you really knew me, you would know that I dropped literally everything to help people with math. Nice, Akilan. I love that insight into you. Let's see. Identities. So Jonathan's an athlete, student, friend, brother, son, Catholic. Great. Madeline, if you really knew me, you'd know that I show love to others very easily because it's hard for me to feel it on my own. Thank you for sharing that. This is important because it's related to love. Audrey knows a lot about art, video games, sound design, art design, animal facts, and horror and cult documentaries. Okay, y'all are on the right track here. Okay, so what we're doing is we're kind of, what you need for a great personal statement is you need some stuff to write about. And what we're generating in these 10, 15 minutes is like some stuff that you can write about. But of course, the question is like, how does this stuff turn into a personal statement? Now, one clue is this values list that I showed you just a second ago. And we'll share this. We'll follow up with this in the follow-up email. But if you take a look at this values list, here's how you test a particular idea. Actually, let me share with you the two structures, and then I want to share with you how your ideas could turn into a personal statement. So check this out. I believe there are two potential essay structures that you could use. One of them is called narrative, which is like challenges-based essays. And one of them is called montage, which is if you're not writing about a challenge. And either of these can work. And a lot of times students feel like they make the mistake of kind of writing a challenges-based essay or trying to because someone told them you have to write about challenges or else your essay doesn't matter. Or they read a really great essay that's about challenges and they're like, oh, I want to make it like that. But listen, seriously, take me for real when I say this. You do not have to write about a challenge in order to write a great essay. You could write an awesome essay, for example, Hannah, about loving music, being vegan, an environmentalist, and a writer. And I'll show you how in just a second. The difference between the narrative, challenges-based, and montage, non-challenges-based, is, besides those differences, narrative is often cause and effect. So let me just share my screen for a second. By cause and effect, I mean like oftentimes these essays are about a thing that happened, usually a thing that led to a challenge, some effects, some impacts of that challenge, what you did about it and what you learned. Usually that's how a narrative, that's how most like movies work, for example, right? A thing happens, challenges. The challenges get tougher and tougher. The hero or, you know, heroine, the hero people do some stuff about it and then they learn some stuff. Whereas a montage is a little bit more like you pick some kind of theme and you connect a bunch of different parts of you under that common theme. And that theme could be anything from different identities that you possess to something in particular that you love or that you're really good at. You see where I'm going with this? So let's talk for just a couple minutes about montage structure. Montage is a technique that you're familiar with. If you watch the movie Up, or really any Pixar movie, really any movie is a montage. And it's basically creating a whole from separate parts, separate pictures, words, moments. In filmmaking, we're using it to condense time and space, okay? And you can totally use this for your essay. So you remember that montage in Up that's like Carl and Ellie and we get their whole life in like a series of images and then we cry in like 3 minutes? That's a montage. And that's a technique that you can use for your personal statement. Remember, the purpose of this essay, even a montage, is to demonstrate the skills, qualities, values, and interests that you're going to contribute to a campus. And a montage can help you do that. The reason that you might want to choose a focusing theme is otherwise it's going to be like all over the place. Like, here are all these random things about me. But if you can find something to connect them all, then it could be that it could make for an interesting essay. Think of it this way. What you need is like skills, qualities, values, and interests, which we've kind of started brainstorming. And then you need the thing that connects them all, kind of like beads and thread. So the beads here are like the different sides of you that you want to show. And what you're looking for if you're using this technique is you're looking for something that connects them all. Okay. I'm going to give you an example in just a second, but let me show you how to test some of these ideas that you have to see if they could potentially connect to an essay. Because I bet you there are more essay topics out there than you think. For example, let's just go with, I'm just going to grab somebody's randomly. Okay, let's go with animals. I'm just going to pick this one from Samantha. Animals. So what I'm doing is I'm just literally writing the thing. This is what I'm going to have you do in just a second. I'm writing animals at the top of my piece of paper. And the next thing I want to do is I want to see how many different values I can connect animals to. Okay. So I'm looking at my values exercise again, which again, don't worry, we'll share on the follow-up, or you can just Google values exercise. And I'm going to see how many different values I can connect animals to. And play along if you want. How many different, we could connect animals to which of these values? I could connect animals to communication, because isn't it cool how we can communicate with animals in a way that like we sometimes can't with humans? Animals also connect to me to listening. Well, that's kind of connected. I'm going to put listening / communication. Meaningful work. Let's say the person who wrote this wants to do something as it relates to animals. So meaningful work. I could connect animals to efficiency. You're like, what, Ethan? How do you do that? Well, there was a student a couple of years ago that I worked with who wrote his essay on animals, and he talked about how he was able to be more efficient in the way that he took care of them in this particular tank that he was using. So efficiency. I'm gonna do one more. Community, yeah, but that's kind of connected to communication. Art, I can connect animals to art. Okay, so here's what I'm doing. I'm creating what looks kind of like a jellyfish. I don't know if it's gonna look like a jellyfish to you, but I'm kind of going, okay, I'm connecting animals to all these different values. Now, what these different values become are paragraphs in my essay. So let's say this imagined essay that I'm brainstorming for whichever student wrote that, I forget, sorry. Let's say that animals have had a huge impact on my life. And I decide that I want to write my personal statement about using animals as my montage thematic thread. So this is the thread, and these are the different beads. And I talk about how animals have taught me a lot about listening and communication. Take, for example, and I give you this example of this animal that I've learned a lot about listening from. And then I do a segue, and I'm like, but listening is important to me, not just with animals, but in other areas as well. And I segue and I talk about, I don't know, some activity that I'm a part of. And I talk about the importance of, when we're in conflict, for example, making sure that the other person feels heard. And, I've got techniques that I've learned to do that with. So then the purpose of the personal statement, remember, is to demonstrate these different values. It's to demonstrate things like I'm a good listener and I communicate well. And yes, I happen to learn it through animals, but I also do it in other areas. You see how this works? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick something that you either know a lot about, love, or something, if you want, if you really knew me. And I want you to see how many different values you can connect it to. And I want you to try this right now. I'm going to set a little 2-minute timer. And then I'm going to show you an example of this. Oh, another thing you can do is you can do this with identities. So you could pick one identity if you wanted to and connect it to a bunch of different values. So like, let's say you identify as an athlete, and you take athlete and you connect it to a bunch of different values. Another way that you could go with this is you could put identities at the top, and you could write your different identities and connect each one to a different value. So let's say, for example, you identify as an athlete, but also as a scholar, and you also identify as an artist. Each one of those could connect to a different value and could make up a different paragraph in your essay. And you're like, what? That sounds crazy. Don't worry, I'm going to show you an example in just a second. So 2 minutes, pick something that you love or know a lot about and see how many values you can connect it to. Or pick an identity and see how many values you can connect it to. All right, here's the values list again. And I'm going to share it with you in the chat as well. There we go, if you want to just grab that. I know this is like not enough time to do this, but I want to give you a sense of how these personal statements are built or can be built. By the way, quick note, let's rein it in the chat just a little bit because I think it's getting a little bit crazy and I think it's distracting people. So if y'all could rein it in the chat and be respectful and just like honestly stay on task for the next 30 minutes, that would be super awesome. And then you can go do whatever you want. That would be super awesome. I'd really appreciate it. Yes, Alexander, you're doing the tree pathway thing. I call it the jellyfish. You're picking a thing and connecting it to different values. Thanks, y'all. I appreciate it. Yes, Pranav, it does work. That was 2 minutes, but let me give you another minute because maybe the thing that you tried like only kind of worked. So try it. Maybe you might want to try a different one. So if you're like, wait, what are we doing? We're taking something that we love or know a lot about and seeing how many values we can connect it to. And if we can connect it to a bunch of values, spoiler alert, it could be something that could make for an interesting personal statement. If it's super basic, Alexander, try something else. Awesome. Okay. Yes, Ethan, for sure. Hi, other Ethan. So Ethan's asking, can you make a jellyfish from a broad topic and then make many subtopics that branch off more? Yes, that's what you're going to do ultimately. That's the idea with this. So you start with this, and then each of these has like little things that branch off of it for each of your paragraphs. But for now, we're just testing the topic. Okay. So if you found, and it sounds like Ethan Coover, you were able to do this. And so go ahead and throw in the chat. What did you come up with? I'm just curious. So for example, Vanessa has her artist's identity and productivity, vulnerability, growth, variety, honesty. Great. Each one of those could make for a really rad paragraph. Yeah. Bianca, Black culture connects to freedom, independence, diversity, culture, authenticity. Yes, that would make an interesting essay. The question is, okay, so first of all, by the way, if you feel like you were able to connect to a lot of values, that's like 2 thumbs up. That's me saying to you, like, head in that direction. That could make an interesting topic because it's something that you know a lot about and you could say a bunch about it. But now the question is, how do we turn it into an interesting essay? And for that, I'm going to give you some tips. So here's a sample essay from a student. It wasn't titled, but this is the way that I remember this essay. And you can, if you want, look for the qualities that I mentioned: values, insight, vulnerability, craft. Okay, here's the essay. I'm going to read you the first like 3 paragraphs. I am Mexican. So starts with an identity. The sound of frying empanadas and the smell of burning peppers. My mother calling me mi vida and my relatives kissing my cheek. Running but never hiding from the dreaded chancla and always responding with muy bien, ¿y tú? Childhood vacations to Puebla and Cancun. Swimming in the ocean and playing in the sand. Feeling the need to be good at cross country. Feeling the need to be able to endure spicy. Those are all me. Okay, quick things I'm noticing. Notice how the writer is invoking all 5 senses here. The sound of frying empanadas, the smell of burning peppers, my mother calling me mi vida, and my relatives kissing my cheek. So one of the things you can think to draw the reader in is to really invoke different senses. Those are all me, the authors. And by the way, what values are you noticing? Family, obviously. There's also like culture in here, I think, a little bit. I'm Chinese. the utter preference for using chopsticks in every scenario, and the unhealthy craving for rice with every meal, the sharing of every dish placed on the center turntable, hot pot for celebration, and tea eggs, of all things, as a favorite dish. My father's musical Cantonese conversations with my grandparents and their constant inquiry asking, how is school? Being named after the dragon for strength and living for 3 years in Shanghai. The constant pressure to get good grades. My father's desire for me to become a doctor. And the never-ending, how are you so bad at math? You're Asian. Those are all me. And what do you notice here? What qualities do you notice? Values. I notice again, family. There's also a neat moment where the author invokes a challenge, which is like some stereotypes that they've experienced. Here, notice at the end, how are you so bad at math? You're Asian. But the author didn't make the whole essay about that challenge. They delicately or subtly, in a few sentences, just wove in that is a challenge that they've experienced based on this identity. So a takeaway for y'all is you don't have to necessarily make your challenge the whole essay. It could just be that you weave it into like one paragraph like this. Let's look at another one. And you can kind of see the theme, right? So like, I'm Mexican, I'm Chinese, I'm American, a citizen with the freedom to vote, the freedom to speak my mind and the representation by all the cultures and countries of the world, shopping sprees at Target and a constant diet of fast foods. Some of you might be reading this and being like, can we do this? And yes, you can totally do this. This is kind of a creative take. There are lots of fragments, yeah? Full acceptance of the consumer society and a rather unhealthy addiction to social media and technology. Going to football games on Friday nights and watching Netflix on Saturday nights. Always watching my weight. Always looking at others. Always wishing. Always wanting for more. Notice some more challenges are woven in there. Those are all me. So this student goes through, and I'm not going to read the whole thing for the sake of time. I'm Catholic. I'm homosexual. And then at the end says, these are all me. I'm Jonathan K. Lung Eng. I love reading. I'm addicted to fan fiction. This is the last paragraph. I have 3 siblings and love my 2 dogs more than anything in the world. I can't eat spicy food and I have the biggest sweet tooth. I play League of Legends and soccer. I'm a Marvel geek and theater nerd. My friends call me Jenga. My teammates call me Jeng. My teachers call me Mr. Eng. I am Mexican. I'm Chinese. I'm American. I'm Catholic. I'm gay. I'm all of this and more. And most of all, I'm me. My identity is not a singular entity, but a conglomeration of experiences, beliefs, and origins. This is my identity. This is me. So I'm curious to hear from y'all. What do you notice about this essay as you read it? Let me know in the chat. I'm curious. As far as these qualities, values, insight, vulnerability, and craft. I mean, let's go backwards to these. Craft. Is it well crafted? For sure. How do we know? There's some really nice repetition, right? Like I am X, I am Y, I am Z, and those are all me. There's also some nice details. Like craft can also be the selection of details, invoking all the 5 senses here in the opening. So that's nice craft examples. Is the essay vulnerable? For sure. I mean, sharing some of these personal challenges, like in terms of being Catholic, the author acknowledges that they have something to believe in, but they also question what they believe in. So there's definitely vulnerability there. What else? Let's see. Insight. Do we have so what moments where we get insight into who this person is? For sure. I mean, every paragraph has got something where you learn something new about this person that you didn't know. And sentence fragments are okay. And she's asking that. Yeah. I mean, this is artfully done. So you can clearly see that the students put some time and energy into it. Yeah, Piero, it was straight to the point. Yeah. Tons of content. That's a great point, Julia. These are short sentences, but each one is a different image. Yeah. Gives insight into the values of the writer. Yeah. And then values. There were tons of values. That's, to me, honestly, that's the most important thing. If your personal statement is demonstrating values, there's so many ways to do this, but that to me is the most important thing. Okay. So that's one way to write your essay. It's not the only way. Some of you are watching this and you're like, wait a minute, but what if you have challenges that you've written about or that you've faced and you want to write about them? So let me talk to you about those for a second. So we talked about montage structure. If you face challenges, you might want to consider narrative structure. And we don't have time to go through the whole exercise today, but the simple format for this essay is thinking about what were the challenges you faced and their effects. And that's probably going to ultimately end up being a third of your essay. Then the next third of your essay is probably going to be describing what you did about it, what you did to overcome the challenges and the effects. And then the final third of your essay is going to be about what you learned through the experience. Okay. Now, I know that's like, wait, that seems super formulaic. Y'all, it's every movie that's ever made pretty much, and we still go to movies. Okay. So here's a simple exercise, and I'm not going to go through it right now because we've only got like 10 more minutes before I get to Q&A. But there's an exercise, and you know what? Maybe we'll follow up with it, with the feelings and needs exercise. Ashley, could we just have a link to the feelings and needs exercise for students? Not now, but like we'll follow up with it in the email. But it's an exercise that you can walk through, and if you spend like 15 to 20 minutes, and you'll be able to see basically if some challenge that you faced or challenges that you faced could lead to an interesting topic. And here's an essay that was written by a particular student. And I'm not going to read the whole essay. I'm going to kind of summarize it a little bit just for the sake of time. But this was a student who was, trigger warning, there was some domestic abuse that happened in this person's life. And in the opening of this essay, the student is like sitting there, like in the bathroom, like just hearing the noises happen outside. And this student's father was taken away. Living without a father, so this is the challenges. What were the effects? That meant money was tight. The student's mom works 2 jobs. The student's brother, and said, my brother and I took care of each other when she worked. Things got a little better for a little while, but then the stepdad, this is like the new father who came into the student's life, had struggled with alcoholism. And then there was a new brother who came along. So this student had to take on some family responsibilities. He writes, I cooked, Jose cleaned. I dressed Fernando, Jose put him to bed. We did what we had to do. So the first part of this essay, I just want to go back to the structure, is describing the challenges that the student experienced and the impacts. Money was tight. We had to take on more family responsibilities. Because the student faced so many challenges, he put him in a separate paragraph. He found out he was undocumented when he was like 16. What was the impact of that? He had to avoid going on certain school trips. Sometimes his family discouraged him from meeting new people. The feeling related to it is that he felt isolated and at times disillusioned. His grades went down as a result. Sorry, I know that's cut off, so you can't read this part. Over time, however, notice the transition. I grew determined to improve the quality of life for my family and for myself. So what did he do about it? Without a father figure to teach me the things a father could, I became my own teacher. I learned how to fix a bike, how to swim, and even how to talk to girls. I became resourceful at fixing shoes with strips of duct tape, and I even found a job to help pay bills. I became as independent as I could to lessen the time and money Mom had to spend raising me. And then the student works on their grades, gets those up, starts volunteering. So all this cool stuff happens. And then at the end here, the student says, I've counseled friends through circumstances similar to mine. I've done tons, and I can finally say I'm proud of that. Okay, so what? For the ending, what did you learn? I'm excited to say that there's so much I have yet to do. I haven't danced the tango, solved a Rubik's Cube, explored how perpetual motion might fuel space exploration, or seen the World Trade Center. And I have yet to see the person that Fernando, his little brother, will become. I'll do as much as I can from now on, not because I have to, because I choose to. One of the student's top values, when he was doing the values exercise a long time ago, was autonomy. Autonomy meaning being self-governing. And he was able to work that in here to the end of his essay. That's another way that even if you're writing about challenges, that you can kind of work in those values. You can guess what some of the other values are too, right? I mean, family comes up a lot. Helping others comes up a bunch as he talks about helping other people, becoming a leader in his school, pushing himself, overcoming challenges. So you can kind of see some core values. It's vulnerable, right? He's sharing about personal stuff that happened in his life. It's also got insights into the ways that he sees the world, right? Through here. And it's well crafted. Notice these like short sentences here and the way that at the opening of the essay, he talks about it's what had to be done. And then at the end, he's like, now I'm not doing things because I have to, it's because I choose to. So it's got those qualities of a great personal statement. Kim likes that ending. It's lovely, right? It took him a while to write it, and he kind of waited till the last minute. But this is a student who I worked with, I want to say it's been more than 5 years because he graduated he got into Stanford, which was kind of awesome. Undocumented student, worked super hard, and now he's getting his master's there. And shout out to Adrian for letting me share this essay and for working super hard. Now, Am I saying to you, if you write this essay, you're going to get into Stanford? No, it takes a lot of different, things. And he worked super hard and had amazing extracurriculars, and the whole deal. He had the highest test scores in his school, but he shared his story. He shared his heart. And what I want to say to y'all, especially if you face significant challenges in your life, is in some situations, sharing what experiences you've had that have led you to be the person that you are can be useful. I'm not saying, don't quote me that like, oh, Ethan said I should write about challenges. I'm not saying you have to. And if you haven't faced challenges, it's all good. You've got montage structure. And even if you have faced challenges, I think it's really important to not be like, oh, I'm definitely going to write about those. I think it's important to do that brainstorming some of the brainstorming that I suggested, and to think about what are your different identities? What are the different skills, qualities, values that you represent? And find a focusing lens that makes sense for you. So just because you face challenges doesn't mean that you need to definitely use the challenges structure. You also notice that other student who had faced challenges related to race and related to like sexual orientation and religion, all of those things were like woven in subtle ways. So you could find a montage structure that allows you to bring in some of those other sides of yourself. Okay. Here's a quick analysis of this essay, because I've got the slides for it, and then we'll do Q&A in a minute. Here were the challenges that the student experienced. Here were the effects. I'm going to go through this kind of fast, but this is connected to that feelings and needs exercise that we'll email you. The feelings, the needs, this was his brainstorm. Here's what he did about it. And then here's what he learned through the experience. I swear, y'all, if you answer these 6 questions, you're going to have mapped out a structure for your personal statement. Again, if you're on the narrative challenges side. Okay. Next steps. Where do you go from here? First of all, tomorrow night, don't forget, we've got another webinar that's going to be on the application and supplemental essays. Let me give you all a quick heads up about this course that I'm leading that's coming up. I'm going to literally spend like 2 minutes on this. But I'm doing this course on the personal statement, and it's starting in like 2 weeks. And it's pay what you can, y'all, which means literally money should not be a barrier for anybody. So I want to encourage y'all, Ashley, if you wouldn't mind sharing the link to sign up. It's going to run through the month of June. And the goal is that by the end of this, you'll have a solid personal statement draft. And I'm going to run it kind of like this, kind of like what we're doing right now. Session 1 is going to be all about brainstorming. We started to like get into brainstorming. Like we did like, I don't know, 10 minutes of it. We're going to do like 45 minutes of brainstorming. So you're going to have many more ideas. I'm going to go through 8 different exercises. And then in week 2, then you'll go away. You'll have some, exercises to do. And I'll show you what I'm going to share with you that's access to this thing called the Choose Your Own Adventure tool. And this is going to be like, give you a bunch of exercises that you can work through. And then we go to outlining and writing. So week 2, it's all about how do you create a great outline to set yourself up for writing a great essay so that you don't have to just like launch blindly into writing it. Week 3 is about how do you revise it and up level, make sure it's awesome. Week 4 is refining. And if you look here, each one of these corresponds to like a different chapter, a different section in the tool. The tool is awesome because it's going to answer a bunch of questions. Like, for example, when you're like trying to revise your essay and you're like, how do I bring more insight into my essay? I've got a whole module that's specifically on 10 ways to bring more insight into your essay. And it walks you through like, here are a bunch of different ways to do it. There's also like, how do you write great transitions? There's stuff on that. There's also in here, there's a whole bunch of essay examples, both narrative challenges based and montage essay examples. And if you click any of these, like here's an identities essay connected to pirates. And that's the student who like identified as a pirate and they wrote their whole essay based on that. Again, kind of based on that jellyfish exercise. Just to show you like one more part of it. I'm gonna scroll back up. Sorry, it takes me forever to scroll up on this page. Good Lord, there we go. There's like a step-by-step workbook that you'll complete and you basically do all of your work inside the workbook. Here are all the brainstorming exercises and you'll just do it all inside this doc. And then you'll have a chance to like meet with somebody else on the course. You'll have like a writing partner set up. And we also we're connecting this year for the first time ever, an opportunity for you to get feedback on your essay, which is going to be super awesome. And there's like paid and free options for that. Yeah. Is there anything else I want to say about that? I think that's it. And then part 2 of this course is, I'll just show you where it is. Part 2 of the course is working on the application of supplemental essays. That's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. But this is going to help you basically brainstorm and figure out how do I save like 20 hours on this process And there is a whole lesson that I do on how to save yourself 20 hours as you're working on your essays by looking at topics that overlap and how do you pick topics that overlap. And this is for all those essays besides your main college essay. And then we'll get into things like the activities list and the additional information section, which students kind of like don't really think about too much. They're like, oh, whatever, it's my brag sheet. But like the way that you write your brag sheet could actually make a huge difference. And then the why us essay is also a really big supplemental essay that a lot of selective schools use. Like, why do you want to go to the school? And I've got like a whole like 25-minute thing on how to write that essay. In some cases, that also can make a big difference, sometimes bigger than the personal statement even. We'll talk about the extracurricular essay that you'll probably need to write if you're applying to selective schools. We'll talk about supplemental essays for like a huge range of schools. You'll get access to like basically step-by-step guides for pretty much whatever schools you're applying to. I'll also give you tips on like how to create a great college list. I've got some awesome stuff on that. And then finally, and this is like all in July, you'll be able to know like how to know if your application is doing its job and like what is the job of the application. So we'll email details on all of that stuff real soon. And again, it's pay what you can. And I really want to like, let me just show you how easy it is to get the pay what you can. Check this out. Register for the course. Watch. So you'll see these prices here. So you click like register and then sorry, it's not clicking. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Oh, dang. Sorry, we moved it. Ba-dum-bum-bum. Sorry, oh, dang, we changed it. We changed the registration. There we go. Let me see if this is it. There we go. Okay, here it is. Yeah. So click register, and then you'll see pay what you can right here. Just go submit a pay what you can request, put your name, email, and then just pick whatever amount you want to pay or put another amount right here. I honestly don't care what it is. And then fill in this details and you're good. Okay. So I really want y'all to know that that's there. And I really don't want money to be a barrier for that. Also, Matchlighters is a thing and it's happening. And actually, if you wouldn't mind just putting the link into Matchlighters, again, that's free application and essay help for low-income students. So if you identify as low income, fill out the application like right now. Okay. Because I'd love to see Erica like flooded with applications. And we can pair you with a counselor as soon as like right after June 5th. So yeah, fill it out. And now it's time for Q&A. Awesome. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Actually, I'm going to keep the screen up in case folks want to look at those things, and then I'll take it down in just a minute. Oh, Jake, you reminded me. What should you not write about? Okay, so here are some topics that I think are super common that I wouldn't necessarily recommend. Thank you, Jake. You're a star. Okay, the topics that I wouldn't necessarily recommend are writing about a mission trip, which is like a trip that you took to another country. And like, you know, sometimes these are called service trips or leadership trips. And it's just so hard to stand out with those. And usually the lesson is the same. It's like, I learned that I had a lot to be grateful for, or I learned valuable lessons in leadership. And I think it's better to weave those into like a single paragraph or to supplemental essays. Why? Because so many students have written on those topics. It's just a lot harder to stand out. And also because you've got extracurricular activity essay, you know, prompts. And what are you going to write about for those? The other thing that I wouldn't necessarily recommend writing about is like the big game essay, where it's like, you're like, you know, bottom of the ninth, you know, down by 2 runs. And you're like, you know, you win the game or you lose the game, but win in life. And the sports injury essay, I wouldn't recommend that. Those are just, again, super common. I think it's really hard to write about common extracurricular activities like common sports and common instruments. Like violin essays are usually about discipline, hard work, and perseverance. Football, basketball, lacrosse, volleyball essays are often about hard work, discipline, perseverance. So I'm not going to leave you in the lurch here. On the course, what we're going to do is we're going to walk through 7 different types of essays. We've talked to about 2 or 3, 2.5 today. And we're going to walk through like a bunch of different options so that you won't feel like, are there any others? The big performance essay where you're like waiting backstage and you're getting ready to go on and you're like nervous to go on. And then you like deliver the performance and it goes well. And you're like, oh, I realize I can do it. Or like it doesn't go well, but you're like, I learned that I can do all kinds of other things. What else? Questions? What questions do y'all have? Let me know. Put them in the chat. You're welcome. Let me see. I'm going to scroll down if we see if we have any more questions. Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. You should have the link for tomorrow. It should be in your email. Thanks, Ashley, for answering these questions. One student's asking, can I talk about my journey of being transgender? Absolutely. And you could do it a few different ways. So one way to do it would be like, you could do a narrative or challenges-based structure where it's like, here's a challenge that I faced. Here's the impacts or effects of that challenge. Here's what I did about it. And here's what I learned through the experience, right? So that's narrative, challenge, what I did, what I learned. Or you could be like, my transgender identity connects to all these different values. And you can use your, I've got it right here, your values exercise to be like, for me, being identifying as transgender has helped me connect with, and like, just look at the values. And you tell me, what that's meant to you. And that's going to give it a different feel, right? It's going to be like, you can kind of move around in space and time, and you don't have to do it in this kind of chronological way. So in short, yes, for sure. Oh, someone asked me, what prompt was the other essay for? Y'all, I don't care about the prompts. What I mean by that is like, for the Common App, if you're applying to private schools, you've got these prompts, and then you've got topic of your choice. And topic of your choice means you can write about whatever you want. So what I'm going to suggest y'all do is think deeply about what are the sides of you that you want to show, and then find a focusing lens or focusing thread and connect that to lots of different sides of you through this values exercise, right? And by doing that, you're going to like bring up lots of awesome stuff, and then you pick topic of your choice, or some of the other prompts are pretty broad anyway. Ooh, good question. Is COVID a bad topic? You've got a section that is like specific for what experiences, how has COVID impacted your life? So I would use that section. I wouldn't put in your personal statement unless it's like a small mention, because you're gonna have 250 words where you can basically expand in bullet points. And you can do it one of two ways. One, challenges, effects, what I've done. Or based on my experiences in COVID, here are some values that I've connected with, and just do a one bullet point per value. Can I start writing my essay early? For sure. How do you find the essay prompts? First of all, for your personal statement, Kayleen, don't worry about them. Because going through this process, hopefully in June, because I think summer is like the best time to work on your essays, because in fall, you're just going to be like swamped. I would love my goal for you would be for you to like walk into fall, senior year and be just like done with your essays. That's my hope. That's why we do these courses over the summer. But you don't have to worry about the prompt for the personal statement, because you can totally start working on that right now. We do this course in July on the supplemental essays, which is right before the prompts get officially released. And we focus specifically on prompts that you're pretty sure that you're going to need to write, which is usually like the YS essay and extracurricular activity essays. And then I can give you a sense when we get on the course of like which prompts are likely to stay the same. Like certain schools tend to keep their prompts the same, and certain schools tend to change them. Like Chicago is definitely going to change their essay prompts. But the good news is you can write for last year's prompt if you want. The UC questions are out. UC, I'm going to do the UCs later in the summer, like later in July. That's a whole specific separate thing. And I've got a whole separate course on that. What else? I'm not going to share the PowerPoint. No, sorry. But I will share it visually right now if you want. Here's the PowerPoint. I'm happy to talk. Amrita, I'm happy to talk about the UC personal insight questions. In fact, what I'll do on part 2 of the course, because it's on supplemental essays, is I'll do like a mini lesson on the UCs. It's just that I have so much to share about the UCs, because if you Google UC college essay guide, you'll see like a 1-hour guide. And then connected to that, there's also a pay what you can guide to the UCs that walks you through how to write all those. But I'm happy to do like a mini lesson, because I think what I usually do on the course is like, and by the way, it ends up creating kind of a cool like family vibe, like we're all in this together. But I usually ask students like, how many of you would you all rather talk about the UCs, or would you rather talk about Ivy League schools? And people will pick, and then sometimes I'll do both. For the essays you shared today, we'll be able to access those later. If you sign up for my Pay What You Can course, you'll get access to them, but otherwise you won't get access to these. How can you make a montage essay still feel focused? Walter, great question. I love how specific that question is. Keep connecting back at least once in each paragraph to your topic or thematic thread. So if you're writing about animals, for example, make sure that each paragraph is connected back to an animal. That's really the simple answer. Yeah, and then make sure that your examples are specific and you've got insights. And if you're doing that, you should be good. I wouldn't write about a torn ACL, Zoe. Yeah, too many essays on that. One of the things we'll do on the course is we're going to play this game called we call it like, is this a good topic or not? And we do a hashtag, whatever is this a good topic is for the acronym. And we talk about whether or not it's a good topic. You know what? I'll talk about the UCs briefly tomorrow. When we do this webinar in 23 hours, I'll talk about the UCs briefly. Why are the UCs a different course? Because the UC personal insight questions, I'm glad there's so much interest in these because the UCs are super awesome. Because they're a totally different application, and they ask for 4 specific different 350 word, they're called personal insight questions. And the focus of those is a little bit different than on the personal statement that we've been talking about today. How long should the essay be? 650 words. Can you show us how to get to the pay what you can screen? Yes, for sure. I'm going to reshare that real quick. Okay. So once you click on this, we need to make this clear. Ashley, can we just make this super duper clear? Because I think it's not as clear as it could be. Not that it's your fault, Ashley, but I'm just making that note for us. Okay, so when you scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. In fact, you can just search for the word pay. Okay, what? There we go. So scroll down. Here it is, pay what you can. Okay, just click submit a pay what you can request. Yeah, so it's on this link, and then just scroll down to pay what you can. It's a long page. I'll put it back there again. Yeah. That's right, Ethan. You choose 4 out of 8 personal insight questions. Could divorce be a challenge? It could, Samantha. It's a pretty common one. So what I would say is run it through the feelings and needs exercise and see if it's just oftentimes, I would say, yes, maybe as one possible topic, but I would say continue to brainstorm other possibilities. Okay. Is a harp a rarer instrument? Yes. But I would say weave it into one of your other ones. Is it one of your identities? And you could share some different identities potentially. One of the things we'll talk about in a couple of weeks is are there different sides of you that you could show? Because if you just wrote a harp essay, that might sound like a violin essay, which it can be hard to stand out with. So, all right, we're over time. I want to call it there, but I want y'all to come back. Please come and join me in 23 hours when we do part 2 of this. Or I hope to see some of y'all in the course. And again, did I mention it's pay what you can? Sign up for match letters, all the things. I'll see you on the social media. Bye.